Teachers of Reddit, when have you met the parents of a student and suddenly understood their behavior? I worked as a teaching assistant at a school last year. One 8-year-old kid was incredibly competitive and would threaten other students who were in second or third place in competitions to stay in their place so that he could win something, and he would become incredibly red-faced and stressed. He would literally threaten his peers. He even threatened to kill other students over a competition of who could make this little robot move within taped lines on the floor. Completely irrational during competitions, it was crazy. Then his parents came in for school sports day and had a full meltdown when they didn't win the jokey parent race we do at the end of the day. They accused other parents of cheating because they had sports shoes on, whereas other parents had just come from work, so they just did the race barefoot. The dad went as far as demanding a rematch on a more level surface. Other parents just did a funny pose at the start line to make the kids laugh, ran the race and fucking went home. Small kid in grade 4, 9 years old, threatened another kid on the playground with a jackknife and said, "I'm gonna kill you," called in his mother, who was quite appalled, and then warned us about his father. Exactly as she said, the man was unhinged. Within a few minutes he was raging, angry and threatening the administrators. He was escorted off campus. Later he threatened to come back and the campus was locked down for the only time I remember in its history, and police were alerted. That poor kid has no chance of growing up normal. His dad is a bomb with an extremely short fuse. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree is so very true. There's a boy in my class who hits children and laughs about it, most often with small disturbing smile as the other kid freaks out. We've told his parent repeatedly, and she stands there with her arms crossed looking at us like we should go die. Then she smiles at her son and asks in an overly cheerful voice if he wants to get ice cream, go to the movies/play mini golf, essentially rewarding him for this behavior. It's so fucking infuriating. But it makes sense, because it's right there. Had a kid who would struggle to listen to anything or follow directions. When told what to do, he would break down. Eventually got him to start listening a little bit. Met his mom. She lets him do whatever he wants. Even write on the walls in their house. She's too scared to tell her own child no. Literally just posted about this. But I work at an after-school program and we have all K-5 kids. There is a 4th grader who has to be the center of attention. He has to win every game. He will fake an injury to avoid losing being it. He says and does pretty nasty things to kids he sees as less than him. He's a bigger kid, so he easily overpowers a lot of kids his age. And when we would go to his mother about his actions, she would say that we lied and he would never do whatever he did. It didn't matter how many adults and students saw him do it, she denied, and would then get upset with us. She'd say we're picking on him because he stands out. He echoes these words whenever he's in trouble. And it's a never-ending cycle that we can really do nothing about because there's nothing being done at home. I was fired from my job as an aftercare worker for kids around 5 years old for telling the mother this exact thing about her daughter. The mother could not care less and took her demon spawn to see Santa. The daughter would take her hairpins off her head and try to stab other children in the eyes with them, all while laughing. What the fuck? But fuck me, right? Just trying to make sure she didn't send anyone to the hospital. ESL teacher here, you'd be surprised by how much the way you talk influence your kids. I haven't had any particular horror story, but I've had plenty of students that talked very slowly, or very loud, or very softly, or with arrogance, etc. Each and every time I've met their parents, I've noticed their voice is exactly the same. Worst part is a lot of them weren't aware of this and said their children had a problem with the way they talk and I should help them with that. Parenting life pro tip: kids are like sponges, they absorb everything they see the older people around them do, especially their parents. Act like you want them to act. Here's a lighter one. I had a student who always left their homework at school, always left their report at school, always left letters at school. I assumed it was all accidental to avoid their parents knowing about school things. Then we had parents' evening, and I had a lovely conversation with their mom. Mom asked for a particular sheet of information, and made notes on it. Then she got up and left, and I realized she'd left the sheet behind on the desk just like her child always did. I had this student who was so down on himself. His intuition for math was great and he would understand everything in class, but then there was no follow-through. No effort on homework or anything. At parent-teacher conferences he had almost failed my class, but I let him do makeup work and he just barely made it. I spoke to him in front of his father and I said, "I think he can do better than this." The father looked at him and said, "I don't think he can, I think this is your best." I'm not supposed to contradict parents, but I said, "I think he will prove you wrong." I realized his father constantly shits on him, so he has no motivation. Kid ended up getting expelled shortly after for something unrelated.